Good evening, everyone. Hope you're doing well. So, people who have joined, kindly let me know whether I'm properly visible and audible. Good evening. Hello. Okay, thank you so much. We'll wait for a minute so that everyone can join, and then we'll start with the class. Good evening, everyone. Okay, so while people are joining, I just wanted to remind you that the full length tests they have already started under the prelims test series. I hope you are giving all the tests so as to identify which portions you are lagging behind in. Okay, so do not forget to give the tests that are remaining and to at least take a look at the tests that have already taken place if you have not already. Okay. Okay, now. So these are the five topics that we'll be covering today in the mains answer writing session. These topics include regulation of online gaming in India. So this topic, it will be mostly useful for GS2. It can also come it can also come in GS3 as well, because online gaming, it is a very big part of the economy. The rate at which this sector is growing is huge. Then we have climate change and human health. So, climate change and human health, it is through and through mostly a part of GS3, environment as well as economy. Then we have Indian space policy. It is science and tech topic, GS3 again. Then we have social sector allocations and inclusive development in education. These topics have been taken respectively from Yojana as well as Kurukshetra. Hello everyone, please settle down. Okay. So these topics, they'll be helpful in GS1 as well as GS2, because both are somehow related to social sector as well as inclusive development. When we talk about inclusive development, a portion of it also becomes a part of your GS3 paper. Okay. Okay, now. So let us start with our first topic, that is regulation of online gaming in India. Now, online gaming, why is it in news? Because recently the government of India, it has notified the online gaming rules in India. So first we'll take a look at the practice question, try to understand the topic, and then we'll try to write an approach for this question. The question is, online gaming industry is growing with leaps and bounds. In this regard, enumerate the need to regulate them at a national level, even though many such games come under the purview of the states. Also highlight the major provisions of online gaming rules introduced by Government of India. So such kind of a long question which has multiple parts, it can come for 15 marks and 250 words. So we'll start with the topic now. As I said, the reason this is in news is because the government of India has notified these rules. It had released the draft rules back in January. However, certain changes have been made to these draft rules. So these rules, they have been notified under the IT rules of 2021. So please take a note of that. So what was the need for it? Why are we regulating the online gaming industry? First is that it is a very rapidly growing industry. In the past few years, it has grown at a rate of 15% per year. Okay, so it is expected that by the year 2024, in India itself, this particular sector of economy, it will be as large as 153 billion rupees. This is not dollars, this is rupees. Okay, please note that. Also, when we talk just about India, we have a very huge youth population. The penetration of digital technologies, it is increasing day by day. So the online gaming industry is booming over here. Compared to countries like China and USA, the growth rates of this sector in India, it is huge. Take a look at these statistics. It has grown at a rate of 38% between 2017 to 2020 in India. Compare that to China. In China, the growth rate between these same years, it was 8%, while in USA, it was 10%. Yes, Sahil, Dream 11 is one kind of such things. Okay. So currently, what is happening that many states, they do have laws on these kind of games. They do have such laws, like states like Assam, Odisha, Telangana, or even now Tamil Nadu. They ban games which have any kind of betting or gambling involved. However, other states, they might allow them. So there is a lot of fragmentation of this sector of economy. So that is why there was a need to bring about an umbrella rules for this sector, so that the companies that are involved in it, they do not get confused because of this regulatory maze that they have to go through. Apart from that, many vulnerable sections of the society, they have access to the internet, be it children, be it poor sections of the society, illiterate people, or even women. They have access to these games. So to protect these kind of sections of the society, these vulnerable sections, there is a need to bring about certain rules so that these online games, they can be properly regulated and no harm can come to these vulnerable sections. Then what about online gambling and the courts? So according to Supreme Court of India, they gave a judgment that there is a difference between skill based games and gambling. Gambling is done on very uncertain things. Skill based games like betting on horses, they are skill based. A person need to know all the specifications of that particular horse. They need to know what has been its past history. So it is basically a game of skill. So according to Supreme Court, any offline games of skill, they are not equivalent to gambling. However, what about online games? In case of online games, a district court of Delhi, it stated that such games, they come under the purview of gambling and betting. Why? Because there is a very high chance that certain amount of manipulation can take place in an online arena. So the players are there, they're not able to see each other. They are connected through their mobile phones or through their laptops. They're not able to see each other as in the case of offline games, right? So in the online scenario, what is happening? There can be collusion amongst the players. There can be collective cheating amongst the players. So the person who is not involved in this collusion, they will get losses, right? So that is why regarding online gambling, it is equivalent to gambling. It is not a game of skill according to this district court of Delhi. So that is why, to take into account all these needs, the government of India, it came up with the amendment to IT rules that helped in regulation of these particular online gaming industry. Okay. Kapil, if you're appearing for prelims, you can just go through the PPT. I would suggest you to skip the webinar. Just focus on your prelims. This is mains answer writing, right? Okay. So what are the provisions of these online gambling rules? First is, it defines the online gaming intermediaries. So what are these intermediaries? So everyone just hold on. You have a lot of questions about this. We are going through the topic. Once we are done with the topic, you can ask your questions, okay, if it's not clarified, because most of them, they will be clarified as we go forward. So first, it defines the online gaming intermediaries, or OGIs. So I have used this acronym at a lot of places. Please note that this is online gaming intermediaries. So these are those platforms that enable the users to access one or more games through their computer systems. So it includes many online gaming platforms. Okay, so all these are included as the online gaming intermediaries. Then next is permissible games. What are the permissible games? So under this, the games are divided into two categories. So one category is PORMG, permissible online real money games. So these are those games which require the player to deposit certain amount in their gaming accounts, and they might get certain winnings out of that. Okay, so there is a factor of deposition of money and winning. Now this winning can be both in cash or kind. Okay, so these are permissible online real money games. There is transaction of real money. The second category of permissible games are the other permissible games. Okay, now with regards to these PORMGs, it is needed that they must be verified from an online self-regulatory gaming body. So there will be certain such SRBs that will be established under these rules, and these games which have any kind of transaction of real money, they will need to get permission from these SRBs in order to be allowed on certain platforms. Okay, also any game that involves wagering will not be allowed. What is wagering? Wagering includes betting of money on any unknown events or uncontrolled events. So these rules, they haven't defined exactly what do they mean by wagering here. Literal meaning of wagering is betting of money on uncontrollable scenarios. Okay, so these kind of games which require such wagering, they will not be allowed in any case. For other games, like the other category of games, there will be no specific regulatory requirements. However, if needed, the government of India, they can impose certain restrictions on these games. Okay, clear until now? Kishan, PORMG includes certain games that include gambling and betting. We'll go to that in the upcoming slides. Okay. Other games include games like, like Angry Birds, Subway Surfer, where there is no transaction of money, right? If there is transaction of money, they will be PORMG. Yes, Kiru Bagar, only those games where there will be involvement of money, it will require the permission from SRBs. Okay. Apart from that, the MeitY, that is the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, it can ask the OGIs, the online gaming intermediaries, to follow certain obligations. Now, what are these obligations? They are similar to the obligations that are under Article 19. So, what are these obligations? Regarding integrity of the country, its sovereignty, its security, public order, our friendly relations with other countries, and one other thing, that is prevention of user harm. So any kind of physical, any kind of monetary, any kind of physiological or mental harm, they should not be done by any game to any of the user. So these are the various obligations that the OGIs need to follow. However, there is one relaxation over here, that the OGIs, they will need to start following these rules after 3 months, when the government of India has instated at least 3 SRBs. So, for example, the three SRBs, they are instated by the government of India by 10th July 2023. Then the OGIs, they will need to start following these obligations by the third month, July, August, September, October. So by 10th October 2023, they will need to start following these rules. Okay. Then is verification of the users. It is the duty of the online gaming intermediaries. OGIs or intermediaries, alias, they are the platforms which are providing the games. So it is the duty of these online gaming intermediaries to hold the KYC, know your customer, verification of all the people before they start depositing any amount in their gaming accounts. Okay, so this is a very necessary step, and this KYC, it needs to be done or undertaken as per the KYC directions of 2016. So for any game, any permissible online real money game, before I start depositing certain amount of money in my gaming account, the company will have to conduct my KYC. They have to conduct my verification. Okay. Earlier, what was happening? Earlier in January, when the draft rules were released, it was said that any user, even if they are or are not depositing any money in their account, for any user, these OGIs, they will have to conduct a KYC. But this has now been relaxed. How? That only if money is being deposited will the KYC be required. Because certain gaming companies, for example, there is an app which provides certain card games. Now, these card games, they can be simple games like solitaire, or they can be money games like, say, poker. So if I'm playing a game like solitaire, I'm not depositing any money in my account. I can play that game. So if I am playing solitaire, the company will not require to do the KYC. However, if I start putting money in my account to play poker, then the company will have to do my KYC. Okay. Then there is the issue of grievance redressal mechanism. All the OGIs, they have an obligation that they have to appoint a grievance officer who must be a resident of India. So this person cannot be a resident of any other country. For example, there is a gaming company which has its headquarter in, say, USA. So the grievance officer, if they want to sell their games in India, the grievance officer, they will be appointed in such a way that this person is a resident of India and not USA. Okay, so this person must necessarily be an Indian resident. What is the timeline? For example, I have any grievance, I submit a grievance to the company. So they must acknowledge my submission of the grievance within 24 hours. Then this resolution of the grievance, it should be done within a span of 15 days. Now, in case I submitted my grievance, I got a reply, I am not satisfied with the reply. What will happen? Then the appeal can be made against such decisions to a grievance appellate committee. Now, this GAC, it will be appointed by the government of India. So right now we have 3 such GACs. Now within the 30 days of getting a reply from the company's grievance officer, I can apply an appeal in the grievance appellate committee, who will have to reply to my grievance within 30 days. Okay. So here also the rules have changed compared to the draft rules of January 2023. Earlier, there were 3 tiers of grievance addressal. First was the grievance officer of the OGI, online gaming intermediary. The appeal from that, it would have gone to grievance officer of the SRB, self-regulating body. And from there, it would have gone to the GAC. Now, the actual rules which have been notified, they have eliminated this step, and the appeal will directly go to the GAC. Okay. Then what are these SRBs and SROs? Sure, Sakshi, I'll do that. So SRBs and SROs, They are certain regulating body which you have already read. They will give a permission for the real money games, whether or not they can take place in India. So these SRBs, first and foremost, they must be registered under the Section A of the Companies Act 2013 of India as non-profit bodies. Okay? And they should have membership that represents the gaming industry. There should not be any conflict of interest between the members and the functions of the SRB. They also need to follow the similar obligations as to be followed by OGIs. Like, they cannot have it allow any games that will violate the security, sovereignty, integrity of India, our relationships with our neighbors, and so on. Moreover, this needs to be noted that before verifying any game, they need to ensure that they are safe for the users. Same kinds of safeties: physical safety, mental safety, financial safety. The children that are using those games, they are not exploited. So all these kinds of things, they need to be taken care of. Okay. METI is Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. Okay. Grievance redressal mechanism, Nachiket, is that if I have any problem with the game, if my money has been deducted wrongfully, if I have any kind of grievance with the game, I can apply, I can write that grievance and send that to the grievance officer. They will have to resolve my problem, my grievance, within a span of 15 days. If I'm not happy with that, then I can make an appeal to the grievance addressal committee established by the Government of India. Okay. Grievance means any problem with anything. Okay. Now the METI, they can suspend any SRB if they are not following certain rules. However, these reasons for suspension, they need to be recorded, and the SRB, they will get enough time to provide, they will be provided with an opportunity to be heard but in front of the Government of India before getting suspended. Okay. Okay. Also, please note that if any game has been verified, the online gaming intermediary, they'll have to display that in any image of the game. If they are promoting the game, if on the app there is certain logo of the game, then on that logo, on that image, it should be clearly stated that that particular game has been verified by the self-regulatory bodies or self-regulatory organizations. Okay. Now, any game that violates the obligations that have been stated, security of the country, sovereignty of the country, prevention of harm, anything, then they can be blocked even by the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting under the Section 69A of the IT Act. So yes, Varun, SRBs are set up by the Government of India to decide whether a game, whether a real money game can be allowed in India or not. Okay. No, Lopita, blue whale game was a very dangerous thing. It did not check by any kind of regulatory bodies. Okay. Okay. Also, the OGIs, the online gaming intermediaries, they should clearly state under their terms and conditions the nature of the game, what kind of user information will be taken from the users, and how will it be used or whether it will be used. Okay. So these are the various provisions of the rules. that are released under the IT rules 2021. OGIs, the definition of OGIs, the types of permissible groups, permissible games which are divided into real money games and the other games, right? Then the various obligations that the OGIs they need to follow, how the verifications of users need to be done, when it needs to be done, what is the grievance redressal mechanism. I missed this point. Just please take a note of this, that the OGIs they will not be allowed to provide any kind of credit to the users. Plus, they cannot even allow any third party to provide any kind of credit. Now, what can happen? For example, I'm playing poker. I lost 1 lakh rupees. I don't have any more money in my account. So the online gaming company, they can say that it's okay. I'll provide you with 50,000 rupees worth of credits. You keep on playing. Or the OGI, they might say that we have connections with ABC Bank. They can provide you with the credit and you can keep on playing. So this will be completely illegal in India now. The OGIs, they cannot provide any kind of credit to the people. They cannot allow any third party to provide the credit. Okay. So then we talked about the self-regulatory bodies and the organizations. What will be their qualifications? What will be their composition? How can they determine whether a game can be allowed or not? Then verified games, they need to have certain marks on their logos, on their promotional images. Any game, they can be eliminated. They can be banned by the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting as well. So that is about this. However, there comes a question about federalism when we talk about these rules. Now, this is a very important conceptual thing. Okay, please understand that. Now, under the various subjects that we have in Schedule 7 of the Indian Constitution, gambling and betting, it both online and offline, it is a state subject. State has the authority to make laws and rules on that. However, the IT rules, when they were amended and these online gaming rules were introduced, then that was kind of a breach into the state's territory by the central government, right? Now, previously, the central government has clearly upheld that the states they have a superiority in this regard in the courts of law. So earlier there was a case where it was asked to the Ministry of Electronics and IT that why are you not trying to regulate the betting and gambling in India? So they clearly said that it is not their authority. The states have the power to do that under Schedule 7. Okay. However, when it comes to online games, now internet, it comes under the purview of center. So is it okay from an administrative point of view to have the online space so fragmented? Some states are allowing this game. Some states are not allowing this game. They are allowing certain games which these states are not allowing. So there is a lot of fragmentation. Even the gaming companies, they are getting super confused with all these confusions. This state allows me, this state does not allow me, this state allows me partially. So internet as a whole, it's getting fragmented. So that is why the IT amendment rules were introduced to provide an umbrella. So under this umbrella, what will happen? All the games will come, they will go through this, and some of them will be allowed while the others they won't be allowed. Now what will happen? There will be a second filter now. Over here, the state filter. So some states, so depending upon their different rules, some states will allow these games, some will not allow. So there will be a two-level filtration system now, at a central level through SRBs and then at a state level. Even the IT rules, when they were amended, it was clearly stated that they are not replacing any of the state laws. They are just helping them by providing them a double filtration system. So even the online gaming companies, they will get benefited. How? They will know that certain games will be completely rejected by India due to their rules. However, certain games they might be allowed. Now, the allowed games, states can pick and choose which ones they want, which ones they do not want. So there is a more streamlining of the entire process of whether the games are allowed or not allowed. Okay. Okay. So that is about this particular topic. Now we'll take a look at the question. These are online gaming rules. So any kind of offline gaming is not covered in these rules. Only online gaming is covered in these rules. Yes, Amit, a subject can be transformed from state list to union list, but there are certain rules we need to follow. Okay, they are present in the Constitution of India. Jay, Jay, only gambling, online and offline, I'm saying it is coming under the state government, under the state rules. So many apps, they are banned by the government of India. They come under different rules. Okay, right now we're talking about gambling and betting. Okay. So now we come to the question. Prerna, wagering means, literal meaning of wagering means betting on anything that is uncertain. For example, I'll bet on whether this webinar will continue till 10:30 or it will go to 10:36. Now that is an uncertain thing. Depending upon multiple factors, the timing can extend, it can also reduce, right? So this kind of wagering on events that cannot be predicted through skills, it is known as wagering. Yes, Sushri, gambling and real money games. In real money games, also you are gambling only. You're putting certain amount of money or getting certain amount of money. So not all real money games are gambling, but gambling is included in the real money games itself. Okay. So we'll come to the question now. Online gaming industry is growing with leaps and bounds. In this regard, enumerate the needs to regulate them at national level, even though many such games come under the purview of the states. Also highlight the major provisions of online gaming rules introduced by India. So in the introduction, you can just mention about how this online gaming industry has been growing so rapidly. So this will validate this first statement that has been mentioned in the question. In the body part, first you'll talk about what is the need of these rules. What is the need to regulate online gaming in India? So we have already studied the various needs, how it is growing, how many vulnerable sections they have the access to these online games, and so on. Then you'll talk about the federalism debate. Internet is a union subject. Betting and gambling is a state subject. However, we need to have a proper umbrella so that the gaming industry does not get confused. Because when we talk about gaming industry, please understand that it has two parts. One is the users and one is the developers. Now, India is a very big market for the users. However, India is a very big place where even the developers can get the job. So we cannot allow all the online gaming companies to just go away from India. We want them to come and invest in India, not just for the users, but also for the developers to give them the jobs. Okay. Then you can list the major provisions of these particular rules. Then in the conclusion, you can mention that the new rules, they are a welcome move, because as the internet availability or penetration is increasing, more and more people are coming in contact with such games. So the national rules, they will allow even those states that do not have any rules or do not have many thorough rules with regards to gambling and betting to take note of this of this in order to protect the vulnerable users. Now we come to the second topic, okay? That is climate change and human health. Uh, Kishan, about data localization, it hasn't been clearly stated as of now. When the Digital India Act will come, it is still being prepared by the government of India. When the act come, it might have certain details regarding data localization as well. Anurag, apps like My 11 Circle or Dream 11, they are also included under games of skill. However, right now there hasn't been any kind of ban on these. In real life, they are games of skills. Betting on sports is a game of skill. Online arena, yes, the Delhi District Court did say that it is not a game of skill. However, any kind of rules, any kind of information on that, it is yet to be received. Okay. Kiruggar, if a person moves from state which is not allowing that those games to another state which is allowing that games, so if he's in that other state, he can play that games. Okay. Okay. Second topic. The question is, climate change, while being one of the biggest environmental challenges, also poses a huge threat to the health of humans. Identify with examples the ways in which climate change can affect the well-being of the populations around the world. So the context is that, according to the IPCC reports, the IPCC is Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. Recently, the sixth report synthesis was done in March. Now, according to these reports, climate change, it does have a huge impact on human health. In countries like Malawi, which is located in Africa, now, this country right now, it is experiencing its worst cholera outbreak ever in the history. And this is being clearly attributed to climate change because of untimely rainfall, high levels of storms. What is happening? There is an increase in cholera incidence in the country. Okay, so let us try to understand how can climate change affect the human health. Now, this is an important thing. Why? Because the third report of IPCC, it talked about climate change and human health, and since the synthesis was done this year of the third part, sorry, of the sixth IPCC report. Since the synthesis was done this year, the sixth IPCC report becomes very important for us. Is this visible to everyone? Am I visible? Am I audible? Okay. Nachiket, please try to refresh your screen once. Okay. So according to the study that was done in Nature, which is a very important journal, very important peer-reviewed journal, research journal, according to this particular research, these many diseases, they can get impacted because of climate change due to various reasons like warming, increased or decreased precipitation, flooding, drought, storms, fires, heat waves, and so on. 103 vector-borne diseases, 78 waterborne, 60 airborne, 56 that take place due to direct contact, 50 foodborne, and 116 diseases for which the reasons we do not know. They might get aggravated, severely aggravated because of climate change. So that is why it becomes important for us to understand how can that happen and in which all scenarios it can take place. So first we'll talk about spread of vector-borne diseases. Now vectors are what? They are like vehicles. They take pathogens from one location to another location, from one person to another person. So these are vectors. So how will the vector-borne diseases, their patterns will change due to climate change? Okay. So there has been change in the rainfall patterns, in the temperature patterns all across the world because of climate change. So that is why there has been seen that there is an expansion in the habitats of the vectors, especially mosquitoes, flies, which carry a lot of diseases. So diseases like West Nile disease, like dengue or dengue, malaria, these kind of diseases which were earlier seen only in the tropical regions where the vectors used to live, they are now being seen even in the temperate zones as well. There is an increase in vector-borne diseases all across the world. Take an example of Anopheles mosquitoes, which cause malaria. So, what is happening over the years, over the past 1 century? What has happened? The range of these Anopheles mosquitoes has increased a lot. Vertically, altitudinal level, the range has increased by 6.5 meter per year. And latitudinally speaking, the range has increased from the equator, both north side and south side, by 4.7 kilometers per year. So their habitat, it has been increasing a lot, and that is why more and more people are coming under the impact of these kind of diseases. Yes, Shiva, it is possible that ancient diseases can come in present days because of climate change. If you have heard of something called zombie viruses, these kind of viruses, because of the melting of the ice sheets, they are coming resurfacing on the earth's surface. They can spread to other people, and we do not have any kind of immunity against these viruses. They were present in a distant past, then they were present in the permafrost, permanently frozen regions, and they were not able to come out on the surface. Now they have come out on the surface, and they can also spread into us. Okay. Now, climate change has also caused a change in the patterns of movements of the migratory birds. Now, these birds, they are also a very big vectors of many kind of diseases that comes to humans. Like bird flu is the very common example. So, as their migrating patterns are changing, the countries they are visiting are also changing. For example, they visit India. Earlier, they were visiting, say, Iran. So Indians, they were not immune to those kind of diseases compared to people in Iran. So what will happen? Indians, they will get exposed to new kind of diseases now. There is also an increase in rodent related infections. What are rodent related infections? Infections spread by rodents like plague, like rabies. So these kind of infections, they will also increase in the future because due to increasing precipitation, increasing temperature, instead of living inside their locations, inside their habitats where they are living, it's called bill in Hindi. So where they used to live, they'll come out of those places because those holes, they will get filled with water or they'll get very warm. So there will be a change in the way the rodents and the humans, they are interacting with each other, and there will be an increase in rodent related diseases as well. Then ENSO, that is El Nino Southern Oscillation. So ENSO, it is also causing, it can cause extreme drought events all across the world, right? During El Nino periods, there are drought-like conditions in countries like Australia, even in countries like India or East Africa, right? So ENSO-related drought events, they have already changed the habitats of the bats. Now, bats, they are a mammal which can fly, right? So they carry a lot of diseases that can easily come to humans as well, COVID being one of the prime most example. So they have changed the patterns of movements of the bats, the habitats of the bats, right? So many diseases like even Nipah, their outbreak have been seen in human habitations in equatorial countries like Malaysia and the neighboring regions. Enso Varshini is El Nino Southern Oscillation. El Nino and La Nina. That combination is ENSO. Alka, I hope your doubt was also cleared. Yes, Kishan, we'll come to bioaccumulation and biomagnification as well. Also, due to displacement of people, there might be an increase in air and waterborne diseases because people are getting displaced from where they were living, so they have to run away from that places. They are running away to other places where they are living in very congested locations, so they are living in very close quarters where they do not have proper facilities to get food, to get water. So in such locations, in such congested locations also, there can be an increase in both airborne and waterborne diseases. Next, heat and cold waves. Now, heat waves, you know that right now in India, many heat waves are going on. In many locations, the Indian Meteorological Department has already released the warnings of heat waves. In fact, if I remember correctly, 20th Feb was the first day, was the first time this year that heat wave warning was released. Imagine in February itself, the heat waves are starting. In first week of February, first, second Feb, we were hearing of cold wave warnings, and within a span of less than 20 days we started hearing of the heat wave warnings. So this is the manifestation of climate change itself. So hot days and nights and heat waves, they are more frequent all across the world now. Even European countries, which historically did not experience any kind of heat waves generally, in 2022, they experienced such a bad heat wave that 20,000 people, more than 20,000 people, they lost their lives. Okay. According to a report by Lancet, so Lancet is a research publication of United Kingdom. Okay. According to a report that was published in Lancet, there will be a 3 to 4 time increase in the heat waves all across India by the year 2050. If we take a look at certain figures, you see that compared to 2004 period, in 2017-21, there was an increase in 55% when it comes to heat wave related mortalities or deaths. India has lost, within this duration, India lost 5.4% of its GDP related work hours due to heat waves. In fact, just today itself, there was a study published by Cambridge which said that 90% of India's area, it is vulnerable to heat waves now. So you can see that heat waves, they are going to affect not only just the world but India specifically. Okay, so there will be an increase in mortality, increase in the period during which the heat waves will exist. Okay, the cold waves, however, they have become rare compared to how they used to be. So heat waves, they have become more common. Cold waves, they have become rare. However, certain sporadic cold waves, that is cold waves in certain pockets of the world, they can adversely impact the people who have previously never experienced cold waves or who are desensitized towards cold waves. Their body, it has never experienced a cold wave. So if they experience the cold wave, the body might go into shock. They might experience hypothermia. So Amit, heat waves and cold waves, they are determined on country to country basis depending upon the departure of temperature from the normal average temperature. Vikas, I request you to please refresh the screen if sounds not audible. Yeah. Sporadic means random. If there are any random incidents of that particular type, then that might lead to increased mortality. Next, wind storms and floods. Now, you know that because of climate change, there have been an increase in the incidences of severe storms and floods. So the intensity of such events, it has increased, their frequency has also increased. So instead of having 5 very bad storms or very extreme severe storms in an year, we are now having more than that. We are now having maybe 10 very severe storms and one highly severe storm. So both their intensity and their frequency is increasing over the years. Now these can cause many kind of impacts like drowning due to storm surges, leading to mortalities, many kind of waterborne diseases because of poor sanitation conditions and displacement of the people. Because they are displaced, they have to live in the congested locations as discussed earlier. This can also create severe mental health and behavioral disorders. One, because they are displaced, and second, because of increased cost of living and cost of healthcare. So they can cause, not just due to storms and floods, but in general due to climate change. These reasons can cause even mental disorders or behavioral disorders amongst the people. Now, flooding can also contaminate water reservoirs with hazardous substances. For example, there was this industry which used to create many hazardous materials. And this is your reservoir where you have water. And this is an underground reservoir. So what happens? There was flooding. So this entire area, it had a layer of water within it. Now in this water, many of these hazardous materials, they got dissolved, and because this is an entirely a single span of water, this dissolution, it took place in this water as well. From here the water entered the underground reservoir as well. So when the water will recede, the water of these reservoirs, they will be contaminated with these hazardous materials. So flooding can cause that as well. Now, out of all the locations all across the world, the worst impact of these kinds of events, they are seen in South Asia, including India and Latin America. That is most part of the South America. Okay. Then droughts and food and nutritional security. Now, droughts, they can clearly cause malnutrition. I don't need to explain it. Malnutrition in form of malnutrition or deficiency of macronutrients or even micronutrients, right? Macronutrients are protein, carbohydrate, fat, minerals, and vitamins. Micronutrients are certain nutrients that are required by a body in very small quantities: zinc, magnesium, sodium, potassium, and so on. So droughts can cause malnourishment both of macro and the micronutrients. Apart from that, what does drought create? uh, Ashutosh has asked a question: what is the difference between drought and famine? Drought is a climatological term that there is lack of water. Famine is when, due to drought, there is lack in availability of food resources. So that is famine. When drought leads to lack of food, that is famine. Okay. Now, drought can also cause certain respiratory diseases. Because of drought, there is no water, there is lack of water. So the particles of soil, they get eroded by the wind. They start moving around in the wind. And what will happen? We will inhale those particles that are moving around in the wind. When we inhale these particulate matters, they can cause certain respiratory diseases. They can damage our lungs. Now, droughts can also cause migration. Now, if there is prolonged drought in a location, the agricultural communities, they won't be able to practice agriculture due to lack of water. They will have to migrate to other locations. When they migrate to other locations, again, there will be insecurity when it comes to food, when it comes to nutrition, when it comes to place to live, and so on, right? So they will also be adversely impacted, these people. Moreover, very interesting thing, that droughts can also alter the patterns of mosquito-borne diseases, which are a type of vector-borne diseases. How? In certain locations, due to dry weather, the mosquitoes, they might get eliminated. Now, the population that are living there, they might lose the immunity they had against these mosquito related diseases. Now once the drought condition goes away, the mosquitoes, they will come back, and because the people, they have reduced immunity to these diseases, they will get those diseases more frequently and in a more deadly format. Secondly, what will happen? Another scenario, this was the first scenario. Another scenario is, due to droughts, the predators of the mosquitoes, they might get eliminated, like frogs. They eat mosquitoes. They might get eliminated from that area because of very dry conditions. So there will be an increase in the mosquito population, and thereby an increase in the mosquito-borne diseases. Next is food safety. Now, there is a linear, progressive relationship between increased temperature and food poisoning. Now, you usually get food poisoning, and mind it, very bad food poisoning in the summer season, right? Because the food, it can get easily spoiled, because the pathogens that are spoiling that food, they are getting a warm temperature. These warm temperatures, they help them in reproducing faster. So they are reproducing faster, they are spoiling the food more quickly, and if you consume that kind of food, you will get food poisoning. Sometimes the food poisoning can be so bad that it can become even deadly. So there is a linear progressive relationship between increase in temperature and food poisoning. Okay. Now also, the food and pest contact is temperature sensitive. Now it is usually seen that pests like flies, which usually come in contact with the food, their contact, it increases, or the amount or the number, the population of flies, it increases as the temperature warms. Especially in the temperate areas, what is happening? Because of an increased temperature, there are milder winters. So these mild winters, they lead to increase in propagation of population of these pests and flies. So more and more of them, they are now coming in contact with the food and causing food related diseases. Apart from that, when it comes to seafood, warmer seas, they can increase certain kind of food poisoning, like shellfish food poisoning and reef fish food poisoning. Why does that occur, especially shellfish? Because warmer seas lead to an increase in proliferation or growth of algae. There can be incidents of harmful algal blooms. So these harmful algae, their population will increase a lot in these warmer seas. Now they produce certain kind of toxins that are poisonous for humans. Now these toxins, they can get accumulated in the bodies of these shellfish or the reef fish, and if anyone consumes that, they can also get those kind of poisoning. There is in fact a poleward increase in these kind of diseases as the seas are warming up. The warming will also increase methylation of mercury. So what is methylation of mercury? Conversion of mercury in inorganic form, which is usually present in the rocks. This can convert into methyl mercury. Now methyl mercury is organic form of mercury which can be taken in by the fish. So this mercury, it starts getting accumulated in the bodies of the fish, known as bioaccumulation. Now as we consume these fish, they also start getting accumulated inside our bodies. So it gets accumulated inside our bodies, and we can get those diseases related to poisoning of mercury. Okay. Next, we have air quality and diseases. There has been seen that as the temperatures increase, the amount of ground level ozone also increases, because creation of ozone, it requires high temperature. Now ozone at stratospheric level, it is protecting us from the harmful UV radiations. However, ground level ozone, when it is inhaled by us, it can lead to a large number of respiratory diseases like pneumonia, like asthma, and so on. Okay, so we are seeing that as the temperatures are increasing, the ground level ozone is also increasing. Ishita, the only way to determine which fish are poisonous are by checking them in the laboratories. Now, many a times that is not possible, especially in the informal conditions. Now, climate change has also changed the wind patterns. Now, because of altered wind patterns, what is happening? Pollution patterns are also changing. Now, many pollutants which were restricted to a particular area, due to change in the wind patterns, they are going away to far away areas as well. Moreover, if a certain areas, it used to have certain pollutants, but the wind pattern was such that these pollutants, they used to get carried away by the wind. Okay, so now the winds have stopped, or the wind patterns have reduced, so these pollutants will stay in that location for a longer period of time. So there can be many ways by which the wind patterns can affect the pollution patterns as well. Now, if the amount of pollutants in that area increase, especially the particulate matter quantity, it increases, then again the person will start suffering from many respiratory issues. Shreya's biomagnification is increase in the concentration of toxins or heavy metals as we go up the trophic level. So that is biomagnification. Vivek, wind patterns is the way in which the winds are moving. Pooja, ground level ozone is ozone that is available at the ground level, which we can inhale. Sanal, I hope your doubt is also clarified. Methylation of mercury means conversion of mercury from an inorganic format to an organic format by addition of a methyl ion to mercury. Okay. Next, forest fires. Now, because of climate change and increased global warming, the incidence of forest fires are also increasing. Now, forest fires, beside destroying the forest, they are also causing the problem of air pollution. In fact, forest fires can pollute the airs for thousands of kilometers around. Okay, so radially thousands of kilometers of air, it can get polluted because of forest fires in a particular location. So air quality is not causing forest fires. Forest fires are causing a reduction in the air quality and causing respiratory issues. Now we come to the question, climate change, while being one of the biggest environmental challenges, also poses huge threat to health of humans. Identify with examples the ways in which climate change can affect the well-being of populations around the world. Yep. In the introduction, CC is climate change. In the introduction, you can mention that right now the biggest challenge in front of humanity is in fact climate change, which is affecting the environment, economy, as well as the society. So all the realms, they are getting equally impacted because of climate change. Now, among the social impacts of climate change includes the health aspects associated with climate change. So with that, you'll start your body part. In the body part, you can mention point wise all the things that we have discussed: the vector borne diseases, air quality related issues, drought related issues, storm related issues, and so on. So you can keep on giving examples as well. In the conclusion part, you can mention that climate change and associated impacts are not a theoretical concept anymore. We can see that it is getting manifested in our day to day lives. A very good example is the heat waves we are seeing right now. The need of the hour is to make our health systems climatically robust and to increase the awareness amongst the general population regarding these health impacts so that they can protect themselves with increased amount of information. Okay? Okay. Next, we come to the Indian space policy. Now, India has just released its space policy. We do not have the full document yet, but we know about certain provisions that are included. It will be released in the upcoming time. Okay. Uh, Kishan, ground ozone leads to positive radioactive forcing. I'm sorry, but I'm not aware of this. I can read upon it, and maybe in the next webinar, I'll try to elaborate on it. Shunya, India has many schemes for climate change. We have given our commitments under the Paris Convention. We have introduced various schemes for climate change prevention, for increasing the green cover, the introduction of the electric vehicles. In fact, in the upcoming slides, in the upcoming topics, when we talk about social sector allocations, we'll talk about a specific part that is green growth, where more such budgetary allocations for climate change related issues, they will be included. Okay. So the practice question in this regard is, how has the Indian space sector evolved over the years? While emphasizing upon the need for private sector involvement in space sector, outline the major features of the Indian Space Policy 2023. Now, this policy has been issued. However, the full document, it has not come to the public as of now. The major provisions, they have been released, so we'll discuss about them. Now, before we go into the space policy, let us try to understand in brief the history of the Indian space sector. So it all started by the efforts of Dr. Vikram Sarabhai. So INCOSPAR, it came in the year 1962. Now, INCOSPAR was the Indian National Committee for Space Research, dedicated to increase India's footprint in the space sector. Now, please note that this was even before the Apollo mission, when Neil Armstrong visited the moon. In 1962 itself, the work was started on the first rocket launching center of India, that is Thumba Equatorial Rocket Launching Station near Thiruvananthapuram in Kerala. Right now, it is known as Vikram Sarabhai Space Center. The work started in 1962, and this location, it started its work by the year 1963. Finally, in 1969, India set up the Indian Space Research Organization, which is right now one of the world's most prestigious space research organizations. In 1972, the Department of Space and Space Commission, it was set up in order to streamline the various projects and the implementation of the various projects related to space technology in the country. In 1975, we finally launched our first satellite. The name of this satellite was what? Anyone quickly? So it was the Aryabhat satellite. The purpose of this Aryabhat satellite was to study the X-ray radiations and solar physics. So this was the purpose of the Aryabhat satellite. Yes, most of you have given the right answer. Then in 1982, India launched its first communication satellite. So we had launched certain experimental communication satellites before this. However, the first proper non-experimental communication satellite was launched in 1982, the INSAT series. INSAT 1A was launched in 1982. In 1984, the first Indian visited the space, Dr. Rakesh Sharma. So he was a part of crew including 2 Russians plus 1 Indian, and he went to the space under the Soyuz T-11 mission. Then in 1992, the first commercial arm of Department of Space, that is Antrix, was introduced. So this was a public sector unit, which was a commercial unit. Its role was to commercialize the information that has been gained by ISRO, sell that information and get more money. Okay, so they were trying to commercialize the space knowledge of India. Then in March 2019, and between this duration, India had a lot of developments in space technology. In 2008, we released the Chandrayaan mission. In 2013, we had our Mars orbiter mission. We developed PSLV, we developed GSLV, and so on. We started releasing satellites for other countries as well. So next breakthrough was in 2019 in March. INSAT is Indian satellite. Okay, so they were known as INSAT. This was an entire series of satellites. So in 2019, NSIL, the second commercial arm of the Department of Space, New Space India Limited, it was also launched. Now there has been a confusion between what is the difference between Antrix and the NSIL. Many experts say that Antrix, because it got involved in this controversy known as Antrix Devas controversy, to suppress that controversy involved with the commercial arm of Department of Space, a new commercial arm was established. So no difference as such has been stated by the government of India between these two arms. However, it is thought that this new policy, it will introduce what is the difference between these two arms. InSpace was also started in June 2020. InSpace is Indian National Space Promotion and Authorization Center. It is a center established to help the private sector access the various resources of the Indian Space Research Organization. Now, what about the global space sector? So there is this Space Foundation, a global space related think tank. So they release something called the Space Report every year. Now, according to the Space Report 2022, which is the latest one that is available, the global space sector, it is worth $469 billion in 2021. Now, most of the investment in the space sector in 2021, it came from the private sector. However, even the government spending, both in terms of civil and military space technology, it has increased between 2020 to 2021. The biggest increase has been seen in India. Now, in this duration of 1 year, India increased its space sector spending by 36%. Compare that to China. China increased it by 23%, while USA increased it by 18%. So India is rapidly increasing the space spending both at civil and military level. Now, space sector, it benefits a lot of associated sector. We have agriculture sector, communication sector, and so many other related sectors that get benefited due to space technology. So it is necessary that the countries, they continue their spending in this technology. Now you can see the World Economic Forum has taken this data from the Space Foundation's data. So you can see the investments in billion and the number of companies. You can see that in terms of investments, India is at fourth number, just after USA, China, and United Kingdom. We are almost at power with United Kingdom. Okay, so we have tremendously increased our investment, and the number of space related companies in India, they are third in number, just after USA, United Nations, and India. We have more than 400 companies that are working right now in the space and the allied sectors. Now let us take a look at India's space program sector. Now India, according to this latest report, has 2.1% of the global share of the global space economy. In 2022, according to Invest India data, our space economy was $9.6 billion, which is approximately 0.4% of our GDP. Now, according to the same data, it is expected that by the year 2025, this will grow to $13 billion, and by the year 2030, we will command 10% of the global space GDP. Right now, we are around 2.1%. By 2030, 10% of the global space GDP will be commanded by India. Shunya, we will be talking about green hydrogen as well. Don't worry. Okay. GDP is gross domestic product. Now, within the last 3 years itself, just in the last 3 years, we have added 150 startups to the space sector. The amount of investment has also increased by leaps and bounds. However, up until now, the private sector was limited to providing various components to the ISRO, the Indian Space Research Organization, while any kind of launch programs, they were monopolized by the ISRO itself. So the private companies, they were not allowed to launch or establish their launch pads in India. Now, what is the need for the space policy? The first is our commitments under the UN Space Treaty. That is UNCOPUOS, United Nations Committee on Peaceful Use of Outer Space. So under this UN Space Treaty, all the member countries, they need to establish a certain legislation to allow the space activities within its territory. So the space policy helps in fulfilling this commitment. Secondly, you see that the space sector, it has been growing a lot over the past few years. So we need to tap into that growth potential. Right now, only ISRO is completely immersed in all kinds of end-to-end space-related activities. We are not allowing the private sector. If we include the private sector as well, it will help in increasing India's share in the space economy, which will eventually help in increasing our GDP. It will help in increasing our jobs, right? So that is why we want to tap this sector. We want to delineate the roles of the various government agencies that are involved in this, so that the private sector knows that for this work I have to go to this agency, for this work I have to go to them, for this work I have to go to them, right? So then there shouldn't be any kind of confusion amongst the private sector for this regard. We also need to streamline the ways in which the private sector can involve in this space program. Which kind of works can they do? which kind of works can they not do. So that needs to be clearly specified in a particular location. Right now it's sporadically or randomly specified in different places. We need to collate this information in a particular policy format. Next, by introduction of the private sector, what will happen? There will be an increase in competition. Delineation means specifying the particular roles. Okay. Yeah. This will also help in increase in competition and innovation. Whenever private sector gets involved, there is a lot of competition that takes place. Because of this competitions, everyone is trying to become the best. So there is a lot of innovation that every company keeps on doing. So that will also boost India's stature at a global level, right? Now, what are the major provisions that have been highlighted in this policy? First is delineation of the roles. Properly it has been defined which body will do what kind of role. First, we talk about ISRO. Now, ISRO, it will now completely immerse itself in research and development work when it comes to space related technologies. It will step back from operational and production work. So, any kind of operational or production work for launches, for rockets, for satellites, it will now be delegated to the private sector. Okay. So the ISRO, it will not involve in itself in that. It will become a purely dedicated institute towards research and development in space technology. The NSIL, it will be strategic and operational arm of the Department of Space. It will bring in business for India. Business in terms of launches, in terms of providing the information that has been gathered by Indian satellites, by Indian missions. So NSIL, it will work in that direction. The InSpace, it will become the interface between ISRO and the non-governmental entities. If the non-governmental entities want to buy any information from ISRO, want to use any of ISRO's facilities, they will go to the InSpace authority. Okay. Apart from that, this policy, it will now allow entry of private sector in all end-to-end space-related activities like development of advanced space technology, like exploration, space exploration, and other non-commercial missions. So it can take part in all kind of space activities. Up until now, the launches were monopolized by ISRO, right? Now even the private companies, they can launch their own vehicles, they can launch their own satellites and rockets from India. It encourages the private investment in the space infrastructure. So right now India has only a few launch stations that have been developed by ISRO itself. Now space infrastructure, it can now be developed even by the private sector. In fact, the policy encourages the private sector to take part in the infrastructure development. Moreover, apart from that, these private companies, they can use the facilities of ISRO by providing a nominal fee. So they will be doing that through InSpace. Okay. Anshika, we didn't allow private sector to come until now because these kinds of development, they are very sequential. We were very scared about the security. But now we have seen that the private sector, instead of being a threat, it can become a partner in this sector. So that is why we have allowed their entry now. Kishan, for sustainable use of space, we have the Space Treaty, which delineates in what ways the space can be used and what all activities are not allowed in the space. Okay. So these are the major provisions of the policy. The full content of the policy, it is yet to be released by the government. However, Dr. Jitendra Singh, who is the minister in charge of this, he has already released these major provisions of the policy. The private sector, they can now take part in end to end space related activities, and that is one of the most important part of this space policy. NGE, Rishika, is non governmental entity. Now we come to the question, how has Indian space sector evolved over the years? While emphasizing upon the need for private sector involvement in the space sector, outline the major features of the Indian Space Policy 2023. Dhanashekhar, yes, the companies now are in fact encouraged to invest in space infrastructure. Up until now, mostly ISRO was doing the space infrastructure creation. Now, even the private sector, they will be allowed to do the same. Okay. Manisha, NSIL is New Space India Limited. It is a second commercial arm of Department of Space. In the introduction, you can mention about the global space sector, how it is growing, and what is India's share in it. So you can introduce your answer like that. In the body part, you can give a small timeline. We have already read about the timeline, how it changed from INCOSPAR to ISRO. Department of Space was created. Then came Antrix, NSIL in space, and now the Indian Space Policy. Okay, so you can give a brief timeline of the evolution. You can make certain boxes, to make your answer more creative. You can make certain boxes, 1962 INCOSPAR, and so on. Okay, so this will help make your answer more interactive. Then need for private sector in space program, you can mention that. We have studied that as well. In terms of competition, innovation, tapping the global market, we need the private sector for all these cases. Then you can mention the major features of the Indian Space Policy 2023. In the conclusion, you can mention ISRO has made a global impact when it comes to space activities. Now it needs to hand the baton to the private sector so that India stays in a competitive position in this ever expanding sector of the global economy. Kishan, there is no legislation right now that monopolized ISRO's position in terms of commercial activities. However, right now we did not allow any investment by the private sector in the launches. Okay, only in the launches. The private sector companies, they were still available. They were still making certain components, making their own satellites for ISRO to launch. Okay, there was no legislation as such, but space sector, it was a closed sector. Now through the space policy, we are opening it up. Okay. Baton means hand the responsibility. You can rephrase it like that. Now the ISRO, it needs to hand over the responsibility to the private sector as well. Vilappal, yes, that was the concern, that introduction of private sector might increase spy activities, non-state activities, and so on. However, the space policy, it will be properly governing any kind of space related issues. In fact, the policy, once the final document comes out, we'll know that what all permissions do the private sector need to take in order to involve themselves into certain activities. ISP is Indian Space Program. Okay, Anamika. And Rishika, yes, ISRO does help in development of military related space infrastructure as well. Okay. Now we come to the fourth topic. Dhanashikar, right now the FDI policy with regards to space sector investment, it hasn't been disclosed as of now. In February last year, Dr. Jitendra Singh, he did say that the FDI policy needs an update when it comes to space related investments. However, we are still awaiting that. Sakib, we will be including, like here we have included the social sector allocations of the budget 23-24. In the other sessions, other sectors, they will also be covered. Okay, so you can just see these videos and most of it will be covered. Moreover, on YouTube, Sham sir has beautifully explained the entire budget as well. Okay. ISRO Shelja was launched in 1969. Okay, so the practice question, first of all, this is a topic taken from Yojana of March 23. The practice question is, India has been trying to move away from the economic concept of growth to that of inclusive development. Elaborate on the basis of the social sector allocations of 23-24 budget of the Government of India. 10 marks, 150 words. Now, let us take a look at the budgetary outlay over the years and what all major schemes they have been released when it comes to social sector. So, between the years 2015-16 to 2023-24, the average rate of growth in allocating money to the social sector has been around 14%, to be precise, 14.1%. We are we are trying to move towards universalization of social sector schemes without a loss of efficacy, without a loss of efficiency. So universalization, when we say, we are trying to increase the number of people in the net of these social sector schemes. We are not directly trying to include 100% of India's population under the scheme. We are gradually moving towards universalization. Slowly and steadily, we are increasing the number of people who will get benefited because of these schemes. So what is helping us with that? The JAM Trinity. What is JAM Trinity? Jandhan, Aadhaar, Mobile. So because of this trinity, we are able to include more and more people without losing the efficiency of our social sector schemes. We are able to very precisely identify the beneficiaries, send them any kind of subsidies direct to their bank accounts, which are linked through their phones and through their Aadhaar cards. So that is helping us in reducing the leakages from our social sector schemes. Okay, so what are the major schemes that have been included in India? We have Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. An achievement of this scheme up until now is that 11.7 crore households across India, they now have toilets because of this scheme. The Ujjwala Yojana to provide LPG cylinders has benefited 9.6 crore households. Jan Dhan Yojana, under this program, 47.8 crore accounts they have been opened. PM Kisan Samman Nidhi to help the farmers. It has benefited 11.4 crore farmers, and under this 2.2 lakh crore rupees have been transferred to the accounts of various farmers. Under PM Suraksha Bima and PM Jeevan Jyoti Yojana, 44.6 crore people, they have received life and health insurance. So these are very big achievements of the government of India. So first, let us take a look at the specific allocations that were done in this budget under the health. The Ayushman Bharat scheme, which is the world's biggest social sector health related scheme, its allocation since its starting in 2018-19 has increased by 2.6 times, which again is a very big achievement for India. We have introduced schemes to eliminate anemia by the year 2047. Under this, the specific pockets which are suffering from anemia, especially the tribal pockets, over there, more than 7 crore people, they will be examined between the ages of 0 to 40 years. So these people will be examined whether or not they have anemia, and proper interventions or counseling sessions will be held for these people. Then sickle cell anemia elimination mission 2047. We want to eliminate sickle cell anemia as well by the year 2047. Sickle cell anemia, under this disease, instead of being circular, the red blood cells are like this, like sickle shaped. So they are not able to carry the oxygen to our various body parts. They are not able to carry properly the they're not able to carry hemoglobin and oxygen. So that leads to anemia in our body, and that also leads to quick death of these red blood cells. Also, there has been an announcement that across the 157 existing medical colleges, we will also start 157 new nursing colleges. Vivek, the shape of the red blood cells, they change because of creation of a faulty hemoglobin known as hemoglobin S, which leads to change in the shape of the blood cells. Current sickle cell anemia is mainly a genetic disease. So this announcement has also been done to increase the number of new nursing colleges. Why? Because according to WHO's report released in 2022, by the year 2024, India will require 4.2 million new nurses to cater to our increasing population. Okay. There has also been an introduction of a multidisciplinary course for medical devices to increase the number of people who are involved in research for development of new medical devices, and to increase the number of people who can operate these more and more complex medical devices. There has also been a launch of a new program to promote research in pharmaceuticals, and under this program, many laboratories of Indian Council of Medical Research, they will be opened up for the faculty members in different public and private colleges all across the country. Next, allocations in the nutrition sector. So aspirational blocks program, we had the aspirational district program. In January 23, we introduced the aspirational blocks program, under which 500 blocks have been included for their holistic development. Now this holistic development also has a vertical of nutrition. So in these blocks, nutrition will also be a focus area to help the people get better nutrition. Apart from that, a development action plan has been created for the scheduled tribes all across the country, where specifically the particularly vulnerable tribal groups, they will be targeted so that their nutritional needs can be fulfilled. Then there is promotion of Shri Anna. Shri Anna is a name given to millets in India. So millets, they have been promoted across various platforms all across the world. So India is promoting them through United Nations, through G20 meeting. We have developed various research programs. So we are trying to promote them more and more because of their health benefits. So Indian Institute of Millets Research, it will be established in Hyderabad, and it will be established as a center for excellence for any kind of research related to millets. So they will research regarding millets and they will disseminate this information all across the world. There have also been improvement in allocations to integrated child development scheme. which is now Saksham Anganwadi and Poshan 2.0 schemes. And also under PM Poshan Shakti Nirman, that is midday meal schemes. So the allocations for these schemes have also increased. Also, millets, they are now being promoted through these schemes as well, so that the children, they get very good nutrition in their formative years. Next, specific allocations regarding education and skilling. Now, please note that education sector, it has been specifically dealt in the fifth topic that we'll be dealing with. So right now, I'll just go through them quickly and we'll go through these features in detail in the next topic. So under education, there are improvements in allocations both for the school education as well as the higher education, that is college and post graduation and or higher education. There is a focus on training of the teachers via diets, district institutes for education and training. Education has also been included under the aspirational blocks program. Then a national digital library for children and adolescent, it will be created in all the states. States will be urged to create such libraries. Then 3 centers of excellence for artificial intelligence, they will be established in certain higher educational institutes. We will take a look at them in detail in the upcoming topic, okay? So don't worry. We'll move to skilling. Now, there is something called Mission Karma Yogi that has been launched by the government of India. Now, under Mission Karma Yogi, this has been launched previously only. It is not a part of this budget. So, under Mission Karma Yogi, the government is launching various ways in which there can be capacity development of the government servants. Now, under Mission Karma Yogi, there has been a launch of integrated online training program known as I Got Karma Yogi to again help the government servants build their capacity and make them more people centric, because they are serving the people, they are public servants, they are serving the people. Next, there has been a launch of the 4th phase of the Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana. Priyanshi, Diet District Institutes for Education and Training. Now, the 4th phase of PM Kaushal Vikas Yojana, it will focus upon on-job training, industry partnership, so that any kind of curriculum that is developed, it is properly focused upon industries, so that these people who get skilled under this yojana, they can get jobs in those industries. Okay, so 4th phase of this. For diet, we will cover them in the upcoming portion, so don't worry. Mission Karmayogi Arun, it is a mission launched by the government of India to help the government servants build their capacity. So there are many capacity development programs that are available through this mission. Then we have PM Vikas, that is Pradhan Mantri Vishwakarma Kaushal Samman. So this PM Vikas has also been introduced under this budget. Now under PM Vikas, so under PM Vikas, the artisans, they are promoted to put a keen thought into the quality of their products. So under this PM Vikas, the artisans will be made available with credit, advanced training, skill trainings, advanced technology. They will be allowed to come in contact with various micro, small and medium enterprises, and through all that, it will be ensured that the artisans, they are able to improve upon the quality of their products, and they get more and more share of market. Their products, they can reach to not just national but also international markets. So that is the purpose of PM Vikas, which has been introduced in this budget. Next, allocations for green growth. Now, someone was talking about green hydrogen. Yes, National Green Hydrogen Mission. The allocation for this is 19,700 crores. And under this, India aims to produce 5 million metric tons of green hydrogen by the year 2030. Okay. So green hydrogen is what? Hydrogen that is produced with the use of green energy like solar energy or wind energy or other green energies. Apart from that, the banks all across the country, they are also encouraged to launch the green credit program. Now, this is a kind of a trading program. If you remember, there used to be a carbon trading program under the Kyoto Protocol. So, on the same theme, India will get a green credit program which will be notified by the Government of India under the Environmental Protection Act. Priyanshi, yes, we can write ethanol blending under green growth, but right now we are talking about budget 2023-24 and what all provisions have been included under green growth by this budget. Okay. Next, we are trying to urge, the government is trying to urge both the central and the state governments to scrap any of the old vehicles that they have in their inventory. Then there is an exemption on the excise duty that is paid on the GST of compressed biogas. So any kind of excise duty paid on the GST for production of the compressed biogas, it has been waived off or exempted. Deepak, I Got Karma Yogi is just a online training program that will be made available to the government servants. They can get training through this particular platform in various regards. Then we have a proposal to exempt the custom duty on the machinery that is used for production of lithium ion batteries. Now these lithium ion batteries, they are used in electric vehicles. So please note over here, we are not reducing the excise duty on import of lithium ion batteries. We are reducing the excise duty on import of machinery used to produce the lithium ion batteries. We still want to produce the batteries in India. Okay. Then PM Pranam, that is Pradhan Mantri Promotion of Alternative Nutritious and Agricultural Management. So this program has also been introduced under which the states, they will be asked to promote non-chemical manures and fertilizers within their purview. Okay, so states, they will be promoted if they are able to promote non-chemical fertilizers and manures like cow dung and so on within their states. Then also 500 waste to wealth plants, they will be set up under the Gobardhan scheme that has already been launched by the government of India to promote circular economy. Now, what is circular economy? It means that the waste of one sector, it acts as a raw material for another sector. Then its waste, it acts as a raw material for another sector, and so on. So this is a circular economy. Okay, we are not wasting anything. So about green growth, all these things, they have been introduced. Then regarding agriculture and cooperation, there have been a lot of things introduced in this sector as well. There is digital public infrastructure for agriculture that will be established. What is digital public infrastructure? It is an open source digital location, like a digital book that will be available to all the people involved in agriculture. Now here a lot of information about agriculture will be available, lot of real time information will also be available, so that the farmers, they are able to properly manage their crops. They know which crop to sow, when to reap it, any kind of climate related information, market related information. All these information, it will be available in a digital format for all the people to see. So this is digital public infrastructure for agriculture that will be developed. Is my voice clear to everyone? Okay. Shilpa, please refresh your window if the voice is not clear, because it is clear to everyone else. Okay. So there will also be an increase in investments to promote the various agricultural cooperatives and the PACs. What are PACs? PACs are primary agriculture credit societies. So PACs, they provide short and medium term credit to the various farmers for their various agricultural needs. So there has been an increase in investments to promote cooperatives and the PACs. So there the amount of investment is 2516 crore rupees. They will be invested to increase the number of cooperatives and to improve the status of 63,000 PACs across the country. There will also be establishment of an agriculture accelerator fund, which will help in entrepreneurs. It will help in establishment of enterprises, new companies, especially by the rural youth in the field of agriculture and allied activities. Apart from that, credit will be made available through the various allied sectors of agriculture, like food processing sectors, right? So what amount of credit will be made available? Around 20 lakh crore of credit will be made available to the allied sector to improve themselves, to make them globally competitive. Then PPP mode of production. PAX Gaja is primary agriculture credit societies. Allied sectors, Sakib, are any sectors that are closely related to agriculture. Very good example is the food processing industry. It is a very big allied sector of agriculture. Ally is someone who's close to you, right? So these are allied sectors. Then a PPP mode will be adopted. Public private partnership will be adopted for production of extra long staple cotton. What is extra long staple cotton? There is short staple cotton, long staple cotton, extra long staple cotton. So the balls of cotton, what is the length of the thread that we can get from it? So this length of the thread, it varies. So the extra long staple cotton, it is the most coveted, most preferred type of cotton, most high quality cotton that can be produced. So to get that kind of cotton, we will be adopting PPP mode for establishment of various value chains so that we can get extra long staple cotton. Atmanirbhar Clean Plant Program will also be adopted for providing high quality planting material that is disease free. So high quality planting material, disease free material, it will be provided for the high value crops like horticulture. Horticulture is basically cultivation of fruits and vegetables. So high quality disease free planting material, it will be made available to the horticulture sector through the Atmanirbhar Clean Plant Program. And this program, it got a investment from government for 2200 crores. Then there has also been an increase in the investment in Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampada Yojana to promote the micro enterprises, the very small enterprises that are involved in this sector of fisheries. Okay, so this has also been done via something called Quality Fisheries Program. So Quality Fisheries Program will ensure that the micro enterprises, they get good quality seed fish, which can then be cultivated, which can then be reproduced, and their entire output, it can increase. Lastly, the government of India, it is trying to improve the efficiency and the convergence of the various schemes in the social sector. Now, efficiency, we know that JAM Trinity has greatly helped us in improving the efficiency of the social sector schemes. What about social sector budget? How are we trying to improve its efficiency? We are trying to rationalize the allocations. How? We are increasing the allocations for very specific schemes. Subhash, PPP is public private partnership. For specific schemes, we are trying to increase the allocations, and for the generic schemes, we are either keeping the allocations as same or reducing them, so that we can focus on the regions or the areas which need our attention. So rationalization of allocations has been done so that we can improve the utilization of the funds that are available to us. Next is convergence of schemes. Now there are multiple social sector schemes, and many of them, they have the same end result. They have the same end goal. We are trying to converge them. A very good example is the PM Awas Yojana. Previously, we have converged the Saubhagya Yojana with PM Awas Yojana and the Ujjwala Yojana. So any houses that were made under the PM Awas Yojana, they had access to electricity, they had access to LPG. Okay, so that was how convergence was done. Now the finance minister has declared we are also trying to converge the Har Ghar Jal Yojana with the PM Awas Yojana, so that these houses, they have access to tapped water as well. Okay, now we come to the question. India has been trying to move away from quantitative concept of growth to that of inclusive development. Elaborate on the basis of social sector allocations in 23-24 budget. So Bhagya Yojana, Priyanshi, is a scheme of Government of India to electrify, to provide electricity to the rural areas. The introduction, you can write, over the years, India has moved away from the quantitative metric of growth to the qualitative aspect of inclusive development, so that all the sections of the society experience the fruits of our economic growth and development. Arun, PM Mudra, yes, it is a scheme for inclusive development, but right now, please note, we are talking about what all social sector allocations have been done in this budget itself. Okay, in your answer, in a generic answer, you can include all that, but when it is talking only about this year's budget, you will be including only those allocations which have been made this year. In the body part, you can mention how the social sector allocations, they have been improving over the years. They have been growing at the rate of around 14%, benefiting crores of people. Then you can mention the sector-wise major allocations, and also how we are improving the efficiency of the various social sector schemes by JAM Trinity, by rationalization, by convergence, and so on. In the conclusion, you can mention that it has been declared we are the most populous country, right? So as the most populous country of the world, our commitment towards inclusive development becomes a necessity, so that the world does not lag behind in achieving the SDGs. And similarly, the Government of India has made its commitment very clear through the social sector allocations of the budget 23-24. The last topic is inclusive development in education. It's 1 minute to 10:30. Give me 10 more minutes, okay? SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. The question is, the annual budget is a huge indicator towards the priorities of the government. In this background, highlight the major education related provisions introduced by government in 23-24 budget. Now, currently, what is the status of education in India? The gross access ratio, how many habitations they have access to schooling, that lies at 97.46% at the primary level, 97% at upper primary, and 95.48% at the secondary level. Okay. Then the gross enrollment ratio for the girls. The gross enrollment ratio is how many of the children they are enrolled in the schools. So for girls, it is same or higher at all levels of education, and that is a very big news, very important news for us. There have also been improvement in the enrollment of children who are suffering from certain disabilities, that is children with special needs, and this improvement has been of 3.3% between the financial year 21 and financial year 22. There has been a steady reduction that has been seen in the dropout rates of the children, and this can be attributed through to the various schemes that have been adopted by the government of India, like midday meal, Samagra Shiksha, and so on, right? There has also a great attention that is being given to the infrastructure improvement in the schools. So schools infrastructure is improving, the number of toilets, the labs that are available to the students, they are increasing. Again, Samagra Shiksha and Swachh Bharat, they have been very instrumental in this regard. Then what are the major initiatives that have been taken in the last year, 22-23? First, we have PM Shri, Prime Minister Schools for Rising India. It aims at development of certain model schools. These schools will have such good infrastructure. They'll be following the national education policy in such a nice way that all the other schools, they can copy their methodologies. Okay, so under PM Shri, this will be done. So it is a centrally sponsored scheme which will aim at development of existing schools. So no new schools will be created. Existing schools at municipal, at state and central level, they will be developed into certain model schools. The aim is to develop 14,500 such schools between financial year 23 to financial year 27. What is financial year 23? It's 2022-23. Okay. So these schools, they will have state-of-the-art facilities which are accessible, inclusive, very nicely made labs, smart classes, libraries, sports centers. They'll have all those facilities, and they will be pioneers in the implementation of the new education policy. Okay. Then National Curriculum Framework for foundational stage was also released. For students, foundational stage includes students between the age of 3 to 8 years. Now here, play has been made the center of learning, so that the students, they learn while they are playing, so that the play, it has been made the center of learning. खेलते खेलते सीख जाएंगे, right? That is a saying in Hindi language. They learn while they play. So that has been made the center of the education in the foundational stage. This curriculum framework, it delineates the various roles that can be played not just by the teachers but also by the parents and the community as a whole to improve the development of the children, to improve the learning levels, to improve the levels of innovation and creativity amongst the children. Then we had the Prashast app. Now, this is a mobile app that is designed for disability screening of the schools. Now, under the Samagra Shiksha Abhiyan, the schools they get disability certification. Okay. So disability certification is received based on the levels of inclusivity of the schools, whether all the places of the school they are accessible to the children with special needs. So this mobile app has been designed for screening of these disabilities, accessibilities in the school, and it will help generate school wise reports that will help in this certification of the schools. Now this app, it includes 21 impairments, including the major impairments in the rights of people with disabilities act of 2016. Then national credit framework has also been released by UGC, which is an umbrella framework which regarding skilling, upskilling, reskilling, accreditation and evaluation of the people. Now in your colleges, in you used to fulfill certain credit criterias. All the subjects they had certain credits associated with them. So if you pass that subject, you receive those credits. At the end of the course, it was necessary that you accumulate certain number of credits so that you will be eligible to get that particular degree, right? So those are credits. So national credit framework, it has been so beautifully designed that now not only the academic subjects that are being taught in the colleges, in the schools, but also the vocational or experiential learning can get you credits. If you are a national level sports player, if you have certain skills with regards to a vocational, with regards to a vocation, right? Like you have skills with regards to painting, with regards to fixing the bikes, then if you have certain amount of skills, you have spent certain time on that particular skill, you can get credits against that. So earlier what used to be said, if you play, you'll miss your classes, you'll get bad marks, you won't be able to get good percentage. But now if you're playing, you'll get certain credits associated with that play time. Okay. So national credit framework has been designed for that, for integration of formal education with vocational or experiential learning. Now, what has been the role of this year's budget in education sector? There has been an increase in allocations by 13% compared to the last year's budget, both in the fields of school education and higher education. Okay. So for school education, major announcements include attention on teachers training. For that, the district institutes of education and training, they will be developed into centers of excellence to take part in research, development, and dissemination of best practices with regards to teacher training all across the country. So this is one major aspect. Second is establishment of a national digital library for children and adolescents. So it will be a national level library accessible to all the children and adolescent people. Now states all across India, they will be urged that they develop proper infrastructure so that this digital library can be accessible to all. Apart from that, the states will also be encouraged to further encourage the panchayats and the wards at the local level to develop physical libraries for the students as well, so that they develop the habit of reading at an early stage. Moreover, various NGOs related to education, various Bodies of government like the National Book Trust, Children Book Trust, they will be urged to take part in that digital library. They will be urged to donate books to these physical libraries that will be established at panchayat and ward levels. Now, this national level digital library, it will have various titles from national and international levels. It will also have various books in regional languages. Apart from that, please note this is very important. Financial sector regulators, they also have been given a role here. They will be asked to donate certain books that will help in improving the financial literacy amongst the children and the adolescents. Next, for higher education, what all announcements have been done? 3 centers of excellence for higher education, they will be established in various prestigious institutes. These centers for excellence, these all 3 centers of excellence, they will be focusing upon artificial intelligence. So they will help in making our dream come true with regards to make AI in India and make AI work for India. So these are two of our dreams which will be fulfilled through these centers of excellence. Now these excellence centers, they will partner with various businesses and they will help develop solutions for many real life problems, like how to integrate AI with smart cities, how to integrate it with agriculture, and so on. So they'll help in developing and scaling the solutions for these very real life problems. Lab grown diamonds, they have been in news since the budget. So lab grown diamonds, for that, one of the IITs, it hasn't been chosen which one of the IITs, they will receive the seeds for these diamonds and the equipments for these diamonds to improve the research on these kind of diamonds so that India can become a proper hub for them. So this material will be given to that particular IIT for 5 years. Vivek, these can be any type of books of importance, be it religious, be it scientific, any kind of books in the digital library, both national and international level, and also regional language level. Then for 5G services, to improve our research and technological capacity in this regard, 100 labs will be set up across various higher education institutes. And these labs will also have a role in encouraging innovation and entrepreneurship amongst the young minds to improve the levels of jobs that we have, to improve the levels of businesses that we have with regards to technology. By using the 5G, we can have education businesses, precision farming, and so on. National data governance policy, it will also be soon released so that the startups and the research institutes, they can innovate and research with the help of the data that will be available to them. Moreover, multidisciplinary courses will be introduced for medical devices. We have already covered this, right? Medical devices, how to use them, how to research in them, how to develop more and more of them. New programs will be launched in pharmaceutical research as well. Many ICMR laboratories will be made available to faculties from both public and the private sector. Okay. So lab grown diamonds, many people have asked what do they mean. So lab grown diamonds, they are exactly like natural diamonds that are extracted from the earth. The only difference is that they are grown in the labs. Now synthetic diamonds and lab grown diamonds, they are two different things. Okay. Lab grown diamonds are exactly same in the format as the natural diamonds. Okay. Now we come to the question. The annual budget is a huge indicator towards the priorities of the government. in this background, highlight the major education related provisions introduced by the government in 23-24 budget. In the introduction, you can just mention about the annual budget. Article 112 defines the annual financial statement of the union government, which further defines the priorities of the government for the upcoming financial years. It shows where all the government will spend. Okay. Now, in the body part, Vivek, the only difference between lab grown diamond and original diamond is the place of their origin. Structurally, they are the same thing. In the body part, you can mention or list the various statistical improvements that we have seen in the education sector over the past few years, the various schemes that were introduced in 2022-23. Okay. Then you can also mention that in this budget, the allocations have improved by 13% compared to the last budget. So that shows that the government of India is committed towards education sector. Moreover, you can also mention that the focus was both on school and the higher education. And then you can list down the various initiatives that have been undertaken in this particular budget. Then in the conclusion, you can mention that how to harness our Yuva Shakti or a demographic dividend. And in order to achieve SDG 4, provisioning of universal education, it is very important that we must focus on the education sector to make it more and more inclusive and accessible to all the sections of our society. So that is all about this particular webinar. I hope you understood everything. Okay. So it's already very late. It's 15 minutes past the time. So thank you very much for being so patient. And yeah, have a very good night. And people who are giving the prelims, all the very best to all of you. For the other people, please write. Please keep on writing these questions that are mentioned in all of your Thursday webinars, these mains related questions. Okay. More you write, more you practice, better you'll score in your final exam. So thank you very much and a very good night to all of you.